I'm Katie, and I'm the creator of Plant Powered Media and the Plant Powered Podcast. Today is my first episode of the podcast, and I interviewed Rey Ortega, who's the founder of Sunflower Baking Company based in California. They're a vegan baking company. It's an interesting conversation. I always love talking to people about their individual plant-based journey and how they got there and the things that they've learned along the way. So please listen, enjoy, and if you can, follow me on Plant Powered Media on Instagram and at Plant Powered Pics on TikTok. And you can also visit plantpoweredpics.com and sign up for the weekly newsletter, which is basically just a note from me to you every week with some uplifting, inspirational content, obviously grounded in the plant-based universe, but this content should be accessible to anybody. If you're plant curious, if you're vegetarian, if you're just interested in living your happiest, healthiest life, I think you'll get something out of it. I'm a plant-based creator, mom, and just a real regular person, as evidenced by my running attire, and I wear this all of the time in case I can go running. But I just want to share this information. Being plant-based has changed my life in a really positive way over the past 5 years, and I hope I can help you make any changes that you're interested in making as well. So we are recording. So thank you for joining the Plant Powered Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Can you just give a little bit of background about who you are and
Okay, sure.
what brings you?
My name is Rey Ortega, of course, and I am a 30-year vegan who started a vegan cookie company back in 1994. And ever since then, I made quite a few cookies, millions and millions of cookies. So I became vegetarian. Unknowingly became vegetarian at about 23 to 22. But I stopped eating eggs when I was 16. So when I stopped eating eggs at 16, that's when I discovered no eggs.
And I did read that about you, is that your childhood sort of inspires you to look into your nutrition a little bit and tweak it.
Oddly
so what was
enough,
that like?
I think that just accidentally stumbling on some medical books at one time as a child, I was probably, 11, 12 at the time, that for some weird reason, it took me on a path that I didn't even realize. The medical books really made an impression on me because I remember being sick all the time. I was really sick all the time.
So was it like a long illness, or these were like short illnesses, or?
It was just, I thought it was normal to be sick as much as I was sick. I was sick like every day. It seemed like I was just always, something was wrong.
Yeah.
It was really how I got my start in the medical, or reading medical books. First of all, they were medical books that were very hard to understand, but they had a lot of pictures. So at about the age of 15, I picked up the book some more and I started reading them. The one important thing that I started to read was the endocrine system and the digestive system and how they worked together. Once I started to read everything of how everything digested and the endocrine system and how it all worked, I was flabbergasted. I started to become enlightened of my understanding of what was happening to me. I just started reading more about eggs, and eggs were the first thing that I stopped, and I dead stopped at 16. But then the funny thing is, you don't realize you don't just stop eating eggs themselves. You have to stop eating things with eggs in them. To like, okay, I got to quit eating eggs. So I stopped eating eggs. I'd actually, not foolishly, but I experimentally stopped eating potatoes and fruit too for a while. For about a year, I stopped eating because I thought I was doing a process of elimination. I was trying to nail down what the problem was.
So what propelled you to go even further towards veganism?
Well, I started to, oddly enough, things were going good for a while, but then they started getting worse. When you stop eating one thing, you have a tendency of bringing on more other things. And when I was sausage McMuffin with egg, I may have doubled up on the sausage. You know what I mean?
That's a good point, Ray. That's true. I think that's like a first-time vegan mistake is like, I'll just have like 7 bags of chips,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It was just like, oh, okay. Well, so then I started, then I realized I can't have pancakes, I can't have muffins, so I just decided to delve in and So I think progressively was getting worse up until about my 20s, 20, 21, 22.
Mm-hmm.
When I started seeing, I realized, oh my gosh, I was pushing 295 pounds. I was like huge. And I was getting super sick. The chemistry of my body was not good. It was just not
Right.
good. Anyway,
Right.
the chemicals that were going through my body, I had to figure out where they were coming from and why they were happening. And so then I realized, I had to kiss everything goodbye. And you know what? My culture does not allow that frame of thinking. You cannot. My culture, we are laughed at if we dare say we're vegetarian. We are laughed at if
What culture is that? Which culture?
Mexican, Spanish culture, Mexican
Okay.
culture. I'm telling you, I never told anybody I stopped eating eggs. Maybe my girlfriend, and that was it. But I was embarrassed that I was stopped eating eggs. I was embarrassed that I was on the path to eating meat, not eating meat. I'm sorry. I was embarrassed about, like, I didn't know what to tell my family or anybody because it's like a cult. So I was like, oh my gosh, it's very cult. It is so true.
Yeah.
But guess what? They all kicked me to the side once they kind of said, "What? You stop eating meat? You stop eating dairy, cheese?" At that time, you have to start to think, oh, well, what's happening to me? And this label of vegetarian was not in my vocabulary, so to speak. I was. I cannot. I remember every time I talk about this, I remember how embarrassing I felt. I felt embarrassed. My health started picking up in droves, and I lost when I first became vegetarian. I lost 60 pounds.
Wow.
Without even barely lifting a finger.
When you became vegetarian,
when I became
lost 60
vegetarian,
pounds.
60 pounds, and then I lost another 30 when I became vegan, and it fell off. So then finally, when I got to, I was in construction. I was a mechanic too for a while. I didn't want to be a hippie, but I had to join the hippies. I had to join them. And so I got a job at the Sacramento Natural Foods Co-op locally here. And it was quite enlightening I can't even express or explain it still even to this day, of the diversity of the type of people that are in co-ops or vegetarians or their demeanor of how they don't really care who you are. They just care about health. They care about you're not at all. I always felt judged a little bit of being a Mexican child growing up. I always kind of felt like people always judge me. I think minorities have that problem, but for the most part, I think for the most part. So when I got into the co-op, it was like, oh my gosh, I kind of belong here. These people completely accepted me. I was taken in like one of their own, so to speak. And so I learned how to bake vegan at the Sacramento Natural Foods Co-op by their baker who was not vegan. She just worked there, but I had to learn because the only reason why I wanted to be there was because I finally found a cookie that had no eggs in it. I finally actually found a baked good with no eggs in it. The first time in 7 years that I had not had a cookie. So I literally bought them all off the shelf. And I was like, I think I ate them all. I probably ate 12 big ones. They're huge too. And then I kind of like modeled my first company, alternative baking company, off of all of that. But it was a short shelf life. The cookies had only a few days shelf life, so I had to learn how to bake a long-term shelf life. And
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's how I started.
So you changed your health. You lost all that weight, which was a byproduct, like wasn't even your main goal, probably.
Right. No,
you just wanted to feel better. And then you also were launched into this space that where you felt really welcomed, which is awesome. And it gave you an idea for your businesses.
100%. I'm not even caring. I didn't care. I just wanted everyone to have a vegan cookie. After that, it was just like, everybody's got to try these cookies. Everybody's got to have this cookie. Because it's now proof that you can live without eggs and dairy and butter. Because now I thought I hit the mother lode.
That's amazing.
Changing my diet changed the whole path of my entire life in an amazing way.
So this is why, and this is one of the reasons why I started my media company or platform, is because I hear so many of these stories, like, and I just started interviewing people. Like I said, you're the first person I've interviewed so far, but just in reading the stories of people who are like, I went vegan and then everything changed for the better. And there's story after story after story of like people doing this. So it's really interesting.
Transformative is a good word. Because it takes you on a path. It's entirely, everything changes. The food, your food choices, your ideal of what politics changed. The whole vision of understanding of what was happening to the animals. So, and it took me a while to get to grasp the animals aspect. So I was desensitized, and that's just how I grew up, not caring. But then, believe me, when it all started coming together, that's when it really changes your mind, the direction, just completely. Along with, it goes like this: you and your friends go that way. You go one way, and your family and friends go completely different. I wanted to tell everybody when I became vegan. I was like, I have to tell everybody. Everybody's got to know. But guess what? Not everyone wants to know. Not everyone. It doesn't affect everyone like it affected me, and I had to understand that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So that was actually one of the things I'm going to be writing about on my site in the coming weeks, because a lot of people want to lose weight in the new year. They want to go on diets. Maybe they want to try veganism or some other diet. So I just think it's really interesting that you kind of lost weight. That wasn't even the goal. Were you like counting calories or anything? You were just kind of like eating. Yeah, well, me too. Same thing happened to me.
The secret was because when 1994, the only thing I was eating was top ramen, oatmeal, and toast, because that's all I could. Oh, that's all I knew of that had no animal products in it. It was a vegetable top ramen. So I was like, I had no choice, and that's really the only. I think I did that for months, and I just lost weight. Even just on carbohydrates, my body was just glad not to have animal products anymore in it.
So centering the health value of the food seems more successful than worrying about everything else, like what calories am I getting from this? It's like, well, as long as it's a whole food, the calories are great for you. Like, you don't have to worry about it.
It's insane of now, especially after it's been 30 years. It's the things I have, because I've just not stopped, because it's been an ongoing. I think that once you start to have a recognition of what you're doing or where you're trying to go in your path of, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to lose weight or whatever, or I want to feel better, I want to have. It's such a sensitive issue. Number one, it's personal choice. You have to keep in mind that what we're doing is a personal choice. What they're doing is a personal choice, meaning if you try to take their personal choice away from them, they get mad. People don't want their cheese taken away. People don't want their alcohol taken. Nobody wants anything taken away from them. I didn't want anything taken away from me. I was angry. First of all, I was super angry that I had to become vegetarian. I was mad at that. And then I was mad when I became vegan, how the industry pushed all this crap on us to say it was healthy. That really pissed me off. I was very mad. That's the thing that's in my heart that keeps my passion going.
You speak about spirituality and how it's linked to veganism, because as you were just saying, like your worldview sort of changed as you progressed through this journey. And I have to agree that mine did as well, because initially I went into veganism for health reasons. And then over time, I became like, I looked at the natural world differently, and like everything just seems more interconnected, and it's like very woo woo that I didn't expect, but that's what happened. So I'm just interested to hear your perspective.
Right. The spiritualism, it was the forefront of my choices. It was what made me who I am and who I am becoming and still becoming today. I don't think if you have to understand the attachment of the spirit and the mind and the body are separate. So once you start to get and if you start fighting, you're going to be miserable if you keep fighting your body and your spirit together. You can't fight with each other. You have to learn who's boss. And in my mind, I think I'm not a huge religious fanatic, but I heard a quote, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. That couldn't be more true when it comes to being vegan. Even the spiritualism has, as I've become older, I'm 56. I'm getting even more spiritual and understanding of my past. So when you look at your past, you have to start putting it all together. How am I making decisions and where and why?
Yeah,